an important concern about artificial intelligence and fundraising that all of us need to be aware of. Hi, I'm Bill Stanczykiewicz. This is the first day from the fundraising school, and taking a moment today to examine AI and fundraising, and not maybe some of the standard aspects that we've been talking about, but a challenge that could occur here in 2026 or in the not too distant future after this year. Now, of course, there's so many positives happening with AI and fundraising. We've talked about that quite a bit on this podcast, and they're all archived on our website. You can find them using your favorite AI tool, ironically enough, and you can find the different guests we've had talking about different aspects of artificial intelligence and effective fundraising. One of those, of course, is efficiency, right? If we do the right kind of prompting, AI can write the first draft of that fundraising letter. AI can write the first draft of that grant proposal. Even as I teach, I was asked to create a sample letter that a board chair could give to the rest of the board regarding being active with fundraising and identifying prospects. And I was asked to do so in the context of the particular culture of the host organization of which we were teaching. And I'm not from that culture, so I didn't know the language and I didn't know the special book and the history and all of that. So I first asked AI to write me that letter from the board chair to the board. I then asked for a second draft that incorporated some of those cultural themes. I double checked, of course, with the host to make sure there was accuracy, and the letter was spot on. A process that took me 15 minutes, 2 drafts of a letter and a review by the host. That's the kind of efficiency we're seeing from AI helping us with our fundraising. Next, we know that AI can help us with identifying and qualifying prospective donors for our mid-level and major gift fundraising. Now, we can take a look at our base level donors, provide anonymous information to AI. We're not going to put donor names in there, but the AI system can then help us identify this person might be ready to be asked for a larger gift at a mid-level. Maybe they're a major gift prospect, and AI is helping us do that, again, as long as we're ensuring donor privacy by keeping the names out of it and keeping things anonymous. We also had some fascinating podcasts with Travis Tester and Ed.D. talking about how AI is helping them prepare for donor meetings. Travis is using an AI system where AI will review the meeting notes that he's had, previous meetings with a particular donor. That same AI will take a look at the nonprofit's programs and services and outcomes, and then align the key themes from the donor meeting with the nonprofit's program, services, and outcomes, and give him the cheat sheet, the talking points for that next meeting with that donor. And I asked Travis, how much time is that saving you in donor meeting prep? And he gave me a certain amount of hours each week. And when I asked him to translate that into donor meetings, he said, I can have 2 to 4 more donor meetings each week because of the time I'm saving with AI. Well, think about that. That's 100 to 200 more donor meetings a year. And if meeting in person with our mid-level and major gift prospects is the key to success, well, now he's able to have that many more meetings. So AI helping us not be just more efficient, but also more effective. Andy Price told us about the character that he invented on his AI system that he's able to practice a donor meeting with. So people are doing that as well. Of course, people wonder, is there going to be job loss, right? And of course, with any technological advance, there always is. And go back to the agricultural roots of the United States of America, where one farmer with a horse and a plow might do 40 acres. And now one farmer is doing 3,000 acres because of all the technology that's available and all the information that's available through technology. And we can go throughout industry, throughout different products, how technology creates jobs, but there also is some job loss. And I will say in the nonprofit sector, and this is also in the podcast with Andy Price that we have archived, I'm really persuaded by this viewpoint that there will not be significant job loss in the nonprofit sector because of artificial intelligence. Think about it. How many nonprofits do you know that just don't have enough work to do, right? Everybody just kind of has their feet up on the desk waiting for the next project. Or is it actually the opposite? It is the opposite, right? Nonprofits can't get to everything, whether it's with their service provision or all of their prospective possible donors or fundraising activities. And if AI can help us be more efficient and more effective, AI can create more time to help us get through that to-do list. Hopefully, we can continue to hire up and get the human capital, the staff that we need But even if that happens, AI can still help us get to more activities for our nonprofit organization. All right, so that's some of the highlights. We talk about that all the time. Here's the little storm cloud on the horizon, and it's not actually the AI vehicles themselves. It's what might happen in the stock market. And this is not stock market advice, but there are some things that are consistent with history that are happening now that in history led to a popping of the stock market bubble that led to a recession, and in one case, the Great Depression, right? And what's happening is we're seeing a huge amount of investment in these AI companies, in the building of data centers. A lot of this, the companies are taking on debt, right? And or they're receiving money from investors. And of course, those investors want a return. And a lot of smart folks at consulting firms are taking a look at the math, and they're seeing the debt increasing and totaling rates higher than current revenue is going to be able to pay off. And sooner or later, the bill's going to come up for that debt to be paid. Or the investors are going to say, it's time for my financial return or I'm out of here. And if revenues don't increase, and I've seen anywhere from a factor of 4 times greater, 6, 8, 10 times greater than what we see right now, if that revenue increase doesn't happen in the next 3 or 4 years, we'll have a stock market bubble pop associated with AI. And this has happened in previous industries in previous years. You go back to the 1850s, there was a stock market bubble that burst in the United Kingdom. And then about 20 years later in the United States. And all of these bubbles have one thing in common: overinvestment. There's this fear of missing out. Everybody wants in. There's the new shiny object, and everybody wants to be a part of it because once it gets big, people are going to benefit from their investments in big ways, right? Well, there was overinvestment in the railroad industry at first, and then the bubble burst, and there was economic challenge in the UK as well as in the United States. Same thing happened with the auto industry. You know, the Great Depression, the stock market crash in 1929 was caused in part, lots of reasons, very complex, but one of the reasons was overinvestment in America's growing industrial society, including the auto industry. Again, we're now mass producing cars. People don't want to be left out. And there's overinvestment, and not everybody can be paid. Revenues don't keep pace. And that was one of the reasons for the Great Depression that started in 1929. And of course, not too much long ago was the internet, the so-called .com bubble that burst. Again, the internet companies were not profitable just yet. Lots of investors, lots of debt. The bill came due. The money wasn't there to pay. It brought the economy down with it. And same thing with the housing market. When we had the Great Recession, right? That there were debts being taken on that eventually could not be paid, brought the housing market down and brought the economy down with it. Now, all 4 of these products led to a pop in the economy, the stock market, in investments, in debt repayment that caused a recession, in one case, a depression. But did you notice there's also something else all those 4 have in common? Railroads, cars, the internet, and housing. We still have them. So when that recession happens, when it's over, then, you know, kind of the weakest companies, the companies not in a position to continue, they're discontinued. But the ones that remain strong, remain stronger, and they become part of everyday life. So the big question now is that going to happen with AI? And if so, when? Because again, as of now, the math just is not adding up with the amount of debt that's being taken on, with the amount of investors who are expecting a profit in an industry that is nowhere near making a profit just yet. Now, there's one other factor associated with this, and that's what economists are starting to observe, kind of a circular movement of dollars in the industry. Think about it as the same dollar is being spent between 3 different people, as opposed to new dollars, new wealth being created. So think about yourself with 2 family members or 2 colleagues or 2 friends, and you're standing, say, like in a triangle, and you're just handing the same dollar to each other. That might be what's happening in a significant way in the AI industry. So you think about all these data centers that are being built, right? So the data centers are buying chips from the chip makers, right? So the data centers are sending money to the chip makers. The chip makers are subscribing to AI companies to use AI. So they're sending that dollar over to the AI companies, who then are going to pay rent to the data centers. And are what we're seeing when these companies are reporting their success financially, just kind of the same dollar going around in a circle. If that's happening in a substantial way, that also eventually could contribute to an economic dislocation caused by the AI industry. Now, this is not stock advice. Go talk to your financial planners. But here's why this is important for fundraising, because we know if there is a stock market bubble that pops because of these reasons associated with AI, either this year or in the next few years, that, of course, is going to slow down the economy, and that affects the wealth effect of charitable giving, right? We know that every recession is different. On average, during average recession, charitable giving only goes down about 0.5% after adjusting for inflation. But of course, different sectors experience that differently. Human services actually tends to go up a little bit. The arts tend to plummet during an economic downturn. But it's something to keep in mind as you're thinking about if your nonprofit is fortunate to have an operating reserve, if your nonprofit does have endowment funds, and those reserves or those endowments are invested. You might want to be talking to your bank or your financial advisor, your financial planner, your board about what kind of protections, what kind of diversification can you have to protect those reserves, those endowments as best as you can. And of course, if you're thinking about your fundraising planning 1, 3, 5 years down the line, this is where scenario planning is our friend. One scenario is the stock market's going to be fine. That the warnings about an AI bubble popping, even though there's similarities to these other industries and other periods of history, those warnings are overblown. Everything's going to be fine. Stock market's going to stay healthy. That's one scenario. Another scenario is, nope, there's going to be a pop in the stock market bubble, and it's going to bring the economy down with it for 1 or 2 or 3 years, however long that might be. I might have that as a scenario, and then maybe something in between, right? To keep your options open. As a leader, as a fundraiser, scenario planning is always your friend, and scenario planning, taking into account AI and its effect on the stock market, is something to remain mindful of in this new year. Now, at the Fundraising School and all 27 of our courses, leading to 5 different certificates, we of course teach that the primary reason for charitable giving are the values and the philanthropic passions and motivations of that individual donor. And as fundraisers, that is always what we're discerning and connecting with, and then associating that person's philanthropic values with the mission and cause and programs and results of our nonprofit organization. With foundations, it's their guidelines. With the business sector, of course, it's their CSR priorities, and that's our work as a fundraiser. But we also teach the wealth effect of charitable giving. So we're watching things like the stock market over the course of an annual year from January 1 to December 31st. We're watching trends in the economy. We're looking for GDP. We're keeping an eye on the housing data and the employment data, because if the philanthropic motivations are the why people give, the wealth effects of giving could be how much people give and when. So just something to keep in mind as you're doing your work moving forward. We hope to see you at our public courses that are in more than 10 U.S. cities and, of course, available anywhere around the world online. We can have customized training just for your nonprofit, your region, your association of nonprofits. We have quarterly webinars. We have these weekly podcasts, and of course, our textbook, Achieving Excellence in Fundraising, the book now out in its 5th edition. You can learn more about the Fundraising School online at go.iu.edu/TFRS for the Fundraising School. I'm so grateful to our producers, Mike Anthony and Jennifer Boffman. I'm Bill Stanczykiewicz, and now you are now more fully informed on this first day from the Fundraising School.